Okay, so now imagine if a simple blood test could actually predict who is at high risk for breast or ovarian cancer years before the cancer actually shows up. Well, scientists have discovered that certain fats in your blood, things called plasmalogens, elongase activity, and lysophosphatidylcholine may hold this key. Okay, so in fact, when combined, they can predict cancer with over 90% accuracy, particularly in one study that was done. So I want to break this down for you because it's really interesting, and this should be where we spend a lot of our attention because there's so much information about metabolism and cancer. So what did the researchers do? They looked at three main markers in the blood. One is plasmalogens. So plasmalogens are protective fats in cell membranes. So you want to think of them as fire extinguishers in your cell. Now, in every cancer, there is a low level of plasmalogens. Plasmalogens are very, very protective, and this is something you do not want to be low on. And we can talk about later about how to increase plasmalogens. Elongase activity. So there's an enzyme called ELOVL5, which takes short fatty acids and stretches them into longer ones, but the cancer cells love to use these for growth. So when you have an overactivity of elongase 5, that is also a marker that's used in cancer prediction. And then the lysophosphatidylcholine, or what we say for short is LysoPC, is a marker of inflammation and membrane turnover. So by putting these together, the researchers could tell who had cancer and who didn't with a 93% accuracy. So here's the fascinating part. Plasmalogens were low in women with breast cancer, and that didn't change even after the tumor was removed, meaning that low plasmalogens might be the risk factor or the vulnerability in the body, not just a tumor signal. And this is the concern that I've always had, especially with the BRCA mutation, right? So the treatment when somebody has a BRCA mutation is to do a double mastectomy. Well, the BRCA mutation is still there. Okay. You didn't, by removing the breast, you didn't actually remove the BRCA mutation. And ACC is still running unchecked. So it's still doing fat building and not allowing for fat burning. So in that case, not only that, but you haven't even addressed ovarian cancer, which is also BRCA positive, you have a BRCA mutation. And in men, BRCA mutations are associated with prostate cancer. And in both men and women, it's associated with melanoma. So the fact that you do a double mastectomy, even if you do an oophorectomy and take out the ovaries, the fact hasn't changed that you still have a BRCA mutation in the body. And the BRCA mutation has nothing to do with breast. It has to do with DNA repair. And it has to do with the acetyl CoA carboxylase, right? So if that faucet isn't turned off, then you haven't actually changed anything in the body at all. So something we'll talk about in a future videos. So elongase activity was high. So they measured this by looking at the ratio of two fats. So we call them 18-2 versus 18-1. And these are just different types of fats that we look at. So oleic acid, linoleic acid, adrenic acid, arachidonic acid. But when elongase is overactive, the ratio drops. After surgery, this is normalized. This means that elongase wasn't a permanent risk factor. It was just a marker of active tumor metabolism. So when the tumor is gone, the elongase 5 drops down because the cancer doesn't need as much fat because it's not there. So that is helpful. Now, your LysoPC levels added another layer showing inflammation and membrane breakdown. Your cells are constantly rebuilding, right? It's like an ant hole, right? Every day the ants come out and they rebuild whatever their castle is. And your cells are doing that every day. They have to rebuild the membranes constantly, all day, every day, all day long. Now, when they put these three markers together, the low plasmalogens, abnormal elongase activity or overactive elongase activity, and LysoPC, they could distinguish cancer patients from healthy patients with an accuracy of 93%. I mean, that's pretty good. All right, now what does that mean? What is that's we refer to it as area under the curve. It's a measure of how accurate a test is. An area under the curve of 1 is absolutely perfect. 0.5 is no better than chance. Okay, so 0.93 is extremely strong, and it means in this data set that the blood test could tell who had cancer with a 93% accuracy. All right, this matters. And more importantly, it could show this years before it happens, right? It's saying the environment has been set up so that cancer can take hold, right? It's not, if you, let's say you get this test done, and you can certainly get this test done, you can get plasmalogens and elongase and LysoPC, you can get these values. It doesn't mean you have cancer. So if you get the test and you're like, oh my gosh, I have, all of these things are suggesting that I have cancer. It absolutely does not mean that you have cancer. The body's very resilient. There's a lot of variables that go into why cancer is created in the first place. But what this is saying, if you have low plasmalogens, high elongase activity, and inflammation, the environment is ripe for cancer to take hold. Okay, so there's a very nuanced distinction there that you need to be aware of. But more importantly, there's something that you can do about it because 1, you can increase your plasmalogens. 2, you can decrease ACC. And 3, you can reduce your inflammation. So then you can make the environment inhospitable to cancers. So what does this mean? Well, we already have a clinical test to predict do we have a clinical test to predict breast and ovarian cancer? So this research is certainly ongoing, but it is very, very promising and it's very exciting because it points to lipids and metabolism as early warning signs long before cancer develops. And the empowering part is that plasmalogens can be supported through lifestyle, nutrition, and supplementation. Metabolism can be shifted and the environment can be cleaned up. So genes may load your gun, but the environment, the metabolism are going to pull the trigger. And that means that you have a lot of power, more so than you may realize.